In the headlines tonight, President Sahle-Work Zewde calls grain exporters to expand access to international market. Ethiopia's macroeconomy has shown growth despite several deep-rooted challenges. Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I'm Grum Tariku. President Sahle-Work Zewde has called on grain exporters to prepare high-quality goods, establish contacts with other markets, and develop new markets. The president made this remark during the 11th International Cereal and Oilseeds Conference, which kicked off here in Addis Ababa with the theme, Developing Global Partnership. Kasaun Chani has more on this.
The Ethiopian Grains, Oilseeds and Spices Exporters Association and the Ministry of Trade and Regional Integration jointly organized a consultative forum which is believed to help to establish market links to uplift the sector's development and ahead. Speaking on the occasion, President Sahle-Work Zewde emphasized that Ethiopia has an appropriate climate that helps to grow a variety of grains and oilseeds. The president underlined grains exporters should work to boost their export revenues by forging international market connections and a globe.
Ethiopia is naturally endowed with immense investment opportunities, particularly in the areas of agriculture, with a very favorable climate suitable for the production of varieties of pulses, oilseeds, and spices. Our government, in its homegrown economic reform agenda, has given top priority to the agricultural sector to substantially increase its production and productivity.
The president emphasized that one of the government's duties was to extend its support for agricultural projects for both domestic and foreign businesses. She claimed that the output of pulses, oilseeds, food crops and vegetables has increased as a result of the massive and inclusive political reform that has been transforming the agriculture sector for the past 4 years.
It has also put in place various sector-specific legal and trade policy changes that will keep on creating an enabling environment for fostering the private sector engagements in the production, processing, and exporting pulses, oilseeds, and food grains at large. For achieving these objectives, the government has designed and put in place various policy measures, including incentive packages such as duty-free importation of agricultural inputs and machinery. In addition, with the aim of increasing production and productivity of the sector, a huge budget has been allocated to develop a number of medium and large-scale irrigation facilities in different parts of the country, where surface and groundwater are in fact abundant.
The Minister of Trade and Regional Integration, Gabramescal Jala, added that market-based policy reforms have been realized to enable trade and investment to play an unprecedented role in the nation's economy.
As both trade and investment are interrelated and have immense contribution in development of economic opportunities, has widened its scope irrespective of geographical boundaries, following the development of human societies and the progress of science and technology. With this widened, boundaryless global economic settings, trade liberalization, negotiation, and cooperation are key elements in our trade business agenda. In this regard, in the past decade, market-oriented policy reforms have been placed in Ethiopia, focusing on investment, and we continued having our WTO observer status membership, and the government is strongly working on the remaining policy harmonization and the negotiation tasks to realize accession to WTO in near future.
Exporters, suppliers of agricultural equipment and imports, customs brokers, foreign exporters from different nations, top government and business leaders, and ambassadors from several nations in Ethiopia are attending the conference.
An economist suggests that Ethiopia's macroeconomy has shown growth despite several deep-rooted challenges. Lecturer at Civil Service University, Zacharias Minota, said tough policy measures should be installed to address the soaring inflation. Goshumel So has more on this.
Responding queries raised by parliamentarians on Tuesday, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Ethiopia's macroeconomy has shown improvement. Talking to ETV, Zacharias Minota, who is a lecturer at Civil Service University, suggested that Ethiopia's macroeconomy is doing well despite several complications.
If we consider the last year's performance, first explaining about the figure, I think we need to know the challenges that we have had in that year. We have a number of challenges in the economy: war, COVID, climate crisis, and displacements and security problems, and even economic sanctions. Are some of the problems that the economy was facing. Given this, just the reported figure was about 6.3% of GDP growth was registered.
The ever-soaring inflation is affecting many people, particularly the employee. Zacharias said increasing the accessibility of goods and services are the remedy to curb inflation.
I think the absolute solution for inflation is increasing supply of goods and services. Whenever the supply of goods and services in the economy is increased, or if you could produce surplus, then the demand for that, for the goods and services will decrease, and then the price decreases. The problem here in our case is basically the strategic problem we have had so far is supply shortage, shortage of supply. While the demand of the economy in general and then the households in particular is increasing, our supply, our production and the supply of goods and services was not increasing at that rate.
Zacharias stressed that implementing tough policy measures as well as other corrective measures should be critical to curb the soaring inflation across the country.
The suggestion with respect to inflation, inflation is something that is threatening everything, every citizen, every single individual in the economy. And it actually requires tough policy measures, determined policy measures like monetary policy, and the financial systems.
At the end of the 2021-2022 fiscal year, the macroeconomy of the nation registered 6.4% growth, and it is expected to surpass into 7.5% this year, Abiy noted.
After the signing of peace agreement between the federal government of Ethiopia and TPLF, the provision of humanitarian aid to war-affected areas has begun. It is to be remembered that the peace talks between the federal government of Ethiopia and TPLF ended the 2-year war in Ethiopia. The 2-round peace talks in South Africa and Kenya have created a favorable environment for the delivery of humanitarian aid to the war-torn areas in Ethiopia. Johannes van Town has the following account.
The International Committee of Red Cross ICRVC disclosed that the first humanitarian convoy of aid supplies has arrived in Mekelle Tigray region. According to the committee, the first convoy of aid supplies has arrived in Mekelle. 2 trucks, medicines, emergency and first aid kits has arrived to support health facilities in Tigray to treat patients with conditions that needs urgent care. Meanwhile, it's also said emergency food assistance is under distribution in conflict-affected Woreda of Raya Bala, among other war-torn areas in the north. Communities of Raya Bala Woreda, one of the conflict-affected areas in the northern Ethiopia, have been receiving food supplies as part of the humanitarian assistance being delivered to the area. over 5,000 victims in Vaya Bala Woreda were receiving humanitarian assistance, according to the Ethiopian news agency reporter who witnessed the distribution underway. Following the humanitarian aid distribution, the communities have expressed their happiness for being beneficiaries of the first Ethiopian government aid delivery. The Vaya Bala Woreda Agriculture Bureau head Takatabaja said that about 6,800 quintals have reached the warehouse and were being distributed to displaced people in the Woreda. Following the signing of the peace agreement between the Ethiopian government and TPLF, the government has opened both air and road transport to supply aid to Tigray, Amhara and Afar regions that have been affected by the war. Accordingly, the government of Ethiopia is working hard to expedite the delivery of humanitarian aid to conflict-affected areas in the northern part of the country. Government Communication Service State Minister Salamawit Kasa told journalists that after the signed peace agreement between the government and TPLF, over 43,200 quintals of aid have been distributed in Vaya Bala, Alamata, and Koram residences. She added more than 43,200 and 7,300 quintals of wet and nutritious food were distributed to residents of Vaya Bala, Alamata, Koram, respectively. The humanitarian aid distribution will benefit for some 287,000 conflict-affected people in the war-torn region. The activity of delivering humanitarian service to those most urgently needy segments will be strengthened in coordination with non-governmental organizations and government partners, it was learned.
Ethiopia, country located in the eastern horn part of Africa, has been known by its different culture, history, and tradition.
Animal fossils were discovered from here, and then this is south of Addis Ababa.
Just read a book by Peter Ward about life on Earth, including speaking of some of the excavations have been done in this country and in Afar.
There are lots of animal fossil which was discovered from the different, parts of Ethiopia.
I find it incredible, being able to see your history, your culture. And it's not only a place for Ethiopian history, it's a place for human history,
And I think for the foreigners must be busy to learn about the Ethiopian culture and Ethiopian peoples to be happier based on the history. So this will be wonderful.
When I first heard of Lucy, I questioned, I said, how is it possible that she's an African woman and they call her Lucy? My name is Bernetia. My mother is an African woman. She would not have given me a Euro name.
The best country, which is man-made as well as natural one.
Solomon Arada Waktola, Deputy Chief Justice of the Federal Supreme Court of Ethiopia, is appointed as a half-time judge for the United Nations Dispute Tribunal for the term 2023 to 2030 by the United Nations. United Nations General Assembly's 34th plenary meeting, held on the 15th of November 2022 in New York, made the appointment. The United Nations Dispute Tribunal, UNDT, is the court of first instance in the internal justice system of the United Nations and is composed of 3 full-time and 6 half-time judges, all of whom have a 7-year term. Deputy Chief Justice Solomon is an accomplished judge and jurist with over 25 years of legal and judicial experience both at national and international levels.
Ethiopia, country located in the eastern horn part of Africa, has been known by its different culture, history, and tradition.
Animal fossils were discovered from here, and then this is south of Addis Ababa.
Just read a book by Peter Ward about life on Earth, including speaking of some of the excavations have been done in this country and in Afar.
There are lots of animal fossil which was discovered from the different, parts of Ethiopia.
I find it incredible, being able to see your history, your culture. And it's not only a place for Ethiopian history, it's a place for human history,
And I think for the foreigners must be busy to learn about the Ethiopian culture and Ethiopian peoples to be happier based on the history. So this will be wonderful.
When I first heard of Lucy, I questioned, I said, how is it possible that she's an African woman and they call her Lucy? My name is Bernetia. My mother is an African woman. She would not have given me a Euro name.
The best country, which is man-made as well as natural one.
It's urged that it's now high time to work level-based, openly and positively on the implementation of the signed peace agreement. While talking to ETV, Pan-Africanist Akalo Abraham underscored that Ethiopia's move to allow African leaders to mediate the peace negotiations has been exemplary. Tigster has more on this.
It is to be recalled that the federal government of Ethiopia and TPLF have signed the peace agreement to put an end to the northern conflict, solving issues through peaceful negotiations. Talking to ETV, Akalo Abraham, who is a Pan-Africanist, stated that it is such a great achievement for Ethiopians to come to witness such kind of peaceful resolutions.
We saw that a very great change, and which tells us that the agreement is already there. Ethiopian government and TPLF made a kind of good agreement. That's very interesting. That is about a way to peace and a resolution, reconciliation. So that is very interesting. I'm happy. I've been working with that. You see, I've been trying to empower youth, try to teach all nations, especially telling about peace and love and unity among us. So this is a great privilege for Ethiopians. This is what we really wanted to make it into fruit. So as far as I'm able to judge, from my point of view, this is a very wonderful opportunity for Ethiopians and the continent at large.
Akalo further added that it is exemplary for other African countries to allow and believe in African leaders to solve African problems by Africans themselves.
That's a very wonderful thing. You see, Ethiopia is giving an opportunity for African leaders to solve our problem. Ethiopia is giving, it's our problem. We don't need to put the EUs on this issue. They may suggest critical things, maybe like some kind of ideas they may give us, but we are there to solve our problems by our own. That is a great initiation. This is what is expected from African leaders, to solve our problems by our own. Leaders, the former leaders needs to play their own role, right? In every issues in Africa, which is a conflict kind of issues, because it is their problem. You see, it is our problem, because the problem that is happening in Africa is my problem, right? I have to play my own role. That is it. So they played that kind of role. So we really appreciate their push, their understanding of their country's issue, their continent's issue. So that is a wonderful thing I can say. Yeah, I'm taking it, positively. It's a blessing for us to be, solving our problem by our own. Yeah.
The Pan-Africanists also noted that it is high time now to work in level-based more openly and positively in implementation of the signed peace agreement.
It's a very painful situation that we have been past. We shouldn't be like that. It already happened. We don't have to regret those things and then always mesmerizing that thing and then still feeling pain. That's already gone. It's happened already. So now it is a time for Ethiopians to wake up and see things, right? To thinking about our children, our country, the future of this nation. So and then work on the peace issues, you see, the national dialogue issues. We need to solve our problem in here, understanding each other. It's a holy land, right? It's a holy land. We didn't use that as well. The religious leaders to pray for this issue, to make it peace, to bring sustainable, everlasting peace in Ethiopia. Every citizen is, accountable for that, responsible for that. So I really would like to beg the people of Ethiopia to come together and solve our problem by our own. And then the world will take a great lesson from us.
Well, you have been watching ETV News, and over now to quick reminder of the headlines. President Sahle-Work Zewde calls grain exporters to expand access to international market. Ethiopia's macroeconomy has shown growth despite several deep-rooted challenges. Here you have been watching ETV News. Thanks for your company and have a great time.